Women have read it. What's something they never tell us about pregnancy and childbirth? I felt like no one I knew told me about the first trimester exhaustion. I had it with both pregnancies. I literally felt like I did marathons daily for the first try. So sleepy no matter how much I slept or ate or drank. It's so hard to describe the exhaustion too. I try and explain it as something leaching everything out of me. I've been tired. I've been sleepy. This was something else. I shook like a leaf for about an hour after giving birth due to the adrenaline. I was shaking so hard, teeth chattering, not able to hold my baby for a little while. My arms were dead after having my first, which I was not expecting at all. And it was a fairly quick delivery, only 25 minutes of pushing. They made me carry my son from L&D to postpartum, and I was terrified that the lid drop him since my arms are so weak. Thankfully, I was wheeled to the next room, but I had to muster the rest of my arm strength to make sure I didn't accidentally drop him. I really wish someone else carried him to the next room instead of me. I feel like I was pretty prepared, but the one thing I didn't know about was how the nurses will massage your belly after giving birth to help the uterus go back down. I say massage, but it's more like aggressively kneading dough. Definitely wasn't told about that ahead of time. I felt like a waterbed. I had to hand my daughter off because I was hemorrhaging, and they were trying to stop the bleeding by pushing on me. Two people smooshing me down rhythmically was a weird sensation. I was in a daze from finally getting her out, so it was just odd to me, not scary. My sister said the floor was covered in blood, so I'm glad I didn't see it. Postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety is real. You can hate and love too much that tiny human you just made. Sleep deprivation is not for the weak. It's real, it sucks, and will never be easy. At least not until your child does a full mite. Be communicative about your needs. Don't feel bad for asking for help, and set boundaries with people who wants to visit. Little edit, I didn't think my answer would get so much attention. I just shared what was on my mind, since I am right in the thick of it at 8 weeks. Thank you for reading me and sharing your thoughts under a Redditor. Pointed out that postpartum psychosis is also something that happens. I am fortunate not to currently be in this state, but please, if you ever feel the need, call, talk, and reach out to someone who can help. There is no safe zone. People tend to think that once you get past the first trimester, you're guaranteed a living baby, but that's not the case. Also, that after loss, you still go through all things postpartum, just with empty arms, leaking milk, bleeding, hormonal swings. For me, it was slowly getting statistics back from your ultrasounds and how hopeful it makes you. My chance of loss was less than 0.5%. I spontaneously went into labor at 21 weeks a few days ago, and our son passed in our arms. There is no reason for why yet. I did every single thing exactly as I was supposed to. So far, the phantom kicks are the worst part postpartum physically for me. The emotional part, I feel as though I'll never recover. Oh no, I am so sorry for your loss. There's not a single thing in the universe I could say to make it better, but I would like you to know that I, and surely a lot of other people who read your comment and didn't know what to say, feel with you. The sheer indignity of the whole process. Your cooter's out for everyone to see. You get it out at every doctor visit. It's obviously out during childbirth. If you have a C-section, time you are lying on your back after the spinal block, nursing are coming in and cleaning you up, all in your business. You can't move or help because you're basically paralyzed. Then, if you breastfeed, your boobs are out all the time. Motherhood really isn't for those that are modest about their bodies. I remember I had to prove I could pee on my own, but it was like I forgot how. Now, I know I have a date right to its body because of love. What about the real plays in some day? So I'm on a toilet, a diaper around my ankles, hospital gown basically falling off of me, and trying to pee in front of this lady. Shame did not exist. I didn't care. But the peppermint oil worked, and we both cheered. I remember having a catheter in, I think, because I tore quite badly. It was time to take it out, and I was legit having a panic attack because I was absolutely sure they just yank it out and it would hurt so bad. I'm on the toilet, the nurse is squatting in front of me, I'm bracing on the wall for the inevitable, and she just takes it out like normal. I didn't even feel it. I felt so dumb. 101. Former postpartum nurse here. Now working in pediatrics, but the number of moms I would take care of that when breastfeeding were so distraught they weren't producing enough milk and so became convinced they couldn't breastfeed was too many. It usually takes about 3 to 5 days for milk to really come in. Until then, you're really only producing drops, referred to as colostrum, and generally the baby doesn't need much more than that. Their stomachs are really only about the size of a marble. Also, it's not unusual in the first few days for babies' weight to drop a bit. They will lose ideally less than 10% of their birth weight, but gain it back shortly after. My lactation nurse told me I was failing my baby because my milk didn't come in. on Christmas Eve no less. You may get back to your pre-pregnancy weight, but whether you return to your pre-pregnancy shape is a crapshoot. My hips stayed wide, even at my lightest. Postpartum depression can just not go away. I've been dealing with intractable depression since 3 days after my son was born. He's 18 now. He will not know how to breastfeed, which you've probably heard. Neither will your baby. They'll have a vague idea, but it takes practice to get it right. Demand equal help from your partner immediately and don't let up. He works all day? Well, guess what? So do you. All that breastfeeding and changing diapers and cleaning is work. You deserve breaks too. Take them, or he'll assume you're doing fine without them. C-section recovery. I didn't anticipate having a C-section, but after 20 hours of labor, we had an emergency cesarean. Nobody warned me about the recovery and how difficult it is to be recovering from abdominal surgery with a newborn, or how quickly everyone loses sight of the fact you've just had major abdominal surgery when there's a newborn to keep alive. I remember being a week post-surgery, still unable to lift stuff, and I asked my partner to bring a laundry basket into the laundry room, and he asked me why I couldn't do it. Same with driving places. I had to repeatedly remind people I wasn't cleared to drive, and some of their reactions were along the lines of, "Really? You're actually not driving? Isn't that overkill?" One of my friends had to go back into the hospital because she forgot the stair rule and ran up a flight of stairs, tearing her stitches. It's life-threatening. I was sick throughout my pregnancy, to the point I had 2 stints in hospital on drips and anti-nausea medication. That almost killed us both. Then the birth, 2 months early, was traumatic and also nearly killed us. I lost almost half my blood, required several blood transfusions, and spent a month in hospital. Our daughter was in a neonatal unit for 2 months and was allowed to bring her home Christmas Eve, weighing 41 pounds 100 zilch. My late husband, who was a Royal Marine, had PTSD from the birth, and he had seen combat by then. He was killed in action when our daughter was 17 and missed her graduation to become a doctor at a children's hospital, and her getting married and having twin girls. His photo is everywhere in our house, which is tough going for me even 20 years on from his death. But she was worth all the trauma, and her dad would be so proud of her today. As a husband who watched his wife go through pregnancy twice, women don't talk nearly enough about how hard that whole process is. I was already a big feminist, but I've never been a bigger one after watching my wife give birth for the first time. I think a lot of women just take it on the chin because it's what you're supposed to do. But fuck me. As a bystander, I lost years of my life watching my wife go through everything. Also, it differs so much per pregnancy that you will almost never get the same experience. I also think that dudes that cheat on women after birth or tell them to get in shape should be fucking imprisoned. You go from having so much medical attention, monthly, weekly, even daily visits to your 0B at the end, to absolutely no support after you give birth and are discharged. No one careers how you're doing, and you get no medical attention until your 6-week checkup to see if you're ready to begin meeting the sexual needs of your spouse. It's just gross how women are treated by the medical community. I agree here. Was pretty floored to learn this was the case, even with stitches. Hell, it seems insane even if your birth is uncomplicated. You're told to bring it up to the PPR, pediatrician. Like, if your stitches were done poorly, no one knows until it has healed enough that they'd need to cut you again. And that the cleared at 6 weeks thing is about when your male partner can penetrate you without you dying of a uterine infection. Doesn't have a lot to do with when you actually ready for sex or when it actually feels even tolerable to you. It's disgusting, and one mass happy someone mentioned it. Here's one that happened to me and apparently 3% of other pregnant people. Pelvic varicose veins, or varicose veins in your pelvic region, including inside your vagina, which can burst when you deliver the baby. I had at least 2 varicose veins inside my vagina burst when my daughter was born. The moment she left the birth canal, the friction of her sliding out tore open the varicose veins, and I nearly bled to death after an extremely low-drama pregnancy and labor up to that point. The torn veins also contributed to a very extensive but superficial tear, almost into my anus. I needed 30+ stitches to fix me up, inside my vagina and all down my perineum. Luckily, I had no muscle involvement, and my continence was never affected. The sheer number of complications that can happen that you're told are normal, as in it happens regularly, are astounding. You can fracture your tailbone during childbirth, happened to me, and to another woman in my mommy and me group, normal. You can have nerve damage compression during childbirth that makes your legs so numb you cannot move them or walk afterward, sometimes for days, and nerve pain can continue for any amount of time. Normal, happened to a friend. During pregnancy, you can release too much of a hormone called relaxin, which, aptly, relaxes your ligaments to prepare for childbirth, which causes the ligaments in your groin to loosen so much it is extremely painful to try to use them, making it impossible to even roll over in bed or get out of bed without pain. You need to use your hands to lift and move your legs out of bed. Normal. That one was again me. Pregnancy can trigger autoimmune conditions that you did not have before, like Graves' disease, which then are lifelong conditions. A friend of mine has that one. And these are not hypothetical things that can happen. These are just examples from my own circle of friends. And I really don't have that many friends. I know far fewer women who came out of pregnancy and childbirth without some astounding complication than those who had something pretty huge. Because we as a species need to do this to survive. Everything just gets called normal, like it isn't totally debilitating and complete horrible to go through. Imagine a society where every man has their right arm chopped off at 18. Just because everyone goes through it doesn't make it less painful or horrible. Just because every procreating woman goes through childbirth doesn't make it not traumatic on your body. But it's not seen that way. You may not instinctually know what to do and may spend an immeasurable amount of time trying to figure it out. Being pregnant is not always fun. In fact, when it isn't fun, it is a misery you cannot escape. Being miserable does not equate to ingratitude or weakness in any form. It's just not something that's talked about often. Unfortunately, pregnancy is 100% subject to toxic positivity, and those that tell you it was the best time of their lives, or that it's a wonderful experience, are seeing it through rose-tinted glasses. The experience was extremely rare, or simply don't want to share any negative experiences, in fear of scaring you off or appearing ungrateful or negative themselves. Also, every pregnancy is different. For example, I've had 3 kids, and each pregnancy and my state of mind were completely different. Personal examples: my first pregnancy was a breeze, slightly uncomfortable at times, but I more than made up for that with a very long and excruciatingly painful birth. My second pregnancy was very exciting, slightly complicated, and the birth was very scary. My third pregnancy was a breeze, but I had no idea. Miserable. And dealing with the paradox of wanting it to end every second, while dealing with crippling anxiety about the health of my baby and myself, was nearly unbearable, and the birth was incredibly peaceful and easy. I learned directly what most are saying in response to this thread. One cannot anticipate how this experience will unfold, no matter how bulletproof the plan seems to be. This also goes for taking care of and raising the resulting baby and child. The best plan is to accept that there cannot be one. Stay open to the experience, and know that this is another season of life that is meant to teach you invaluable lessons on the meaning of life. After the baby is born, you get superhero hearing. It makes going the movies obnoxious for a while. You'll be able to hear gentle baby coos from 2 floors away between 3 walls. Also, high alert status for crying from any child, along with the super high frequency to understand what kind of cry: fun, sad, hurt, hungry, tired, scared, who is crying, and have the ability to parkour your way to them fast if the situation calls for it. There's a reason you can see the videos where a parent somehow backflips over a car to catch a kid from going into the street. Also, it is inevitable that your kid will fall downstairs, usually a lot of them, and they'll be head over tea kettle. And somehow, after some good hugs from their favorite person, check the pupils, move the wrists and ankles, etc., they'll be absolutely fine. Babies and toddlers are unbelievably resilient. Those bendy bones go a long way. You may get back to your pre-pregnancy weight, but whether you return to your pre-pregnancy shape is a crapshoot. My hips stayed wide, even at my lightest. Postpartum depression can just not go away. I've been dealing with intractable depression since 3 days after my son was born. He's 18 now. You will not know how to breastfeed, which you've probably heard. Neither will your maybe. They'll have a vague idea, but it takes practice to get it right. Demand equal help from your partner immediately, and don't let up. He works all day? Well, guess what? So do you. All that breastfeeding and changing diapers and cleaning is work. You deserve breaks too. Take them, or he'll assume you're doing fine without them. That it's life-threatening. I was sick throughout my pregnancy, to the point I had 2 stints in hospital on drips and anti-nausea medication. That almost killed us both. Then the birth, 2 months early, was traumatic and also nearly killed us. I lost almost half my blood, required several blood transfusions, and spent a month in hospital. Our daughter was in a neonatal unit for 2 months and was allowed to bring her home Christmas Eve, weighing 41 pounds, 100 zilch. My late husband, who was a Royal Marine, had PTSD from the birth, and he had seen combat by then. He was killed in action when our daughter was 17 and missed her graduation to become a doctor at a children's hospital, and her getting married and having twin girls. His photo is everywhere in her house, which is tough going for me, even 20 years on from his death. But she was worth all the trauma, and her dad would be so proud of her today. Your water's breaking feels like a balloon popped between your hips. Baby's kicks feel like a baby kicking you. The whole butterfly feeling lasts like a month tops. Then it's just a whole-ass kid kicking you from the inside out. It sounds magical. It get real old, real quick. Be prepared to be an absolute knee-certifiable lunatic. I'm not an emotional person. I don't have big feeling, and I certainly don't cry in front of strangers. But here's just a short list of some of the things that made me sob for minutes on end. Fried chicken was good, the cat meowed at a bird through the window, the Mars rover exists, a baby panda wasn't born that day, a dollar store plastic spatula bent, my husband said, "Hello, gorgeous." The store did have peanut butter ice cream. My ceiling fan was off when I wanted it on. Also, random strangers are going to touch you and ask you very weird, very personal questions. For some reason, there is a segment of the population that seems to view pregnant women as public property, like a park bench or a stop sign, and feel that they have a right, nay, a duty, to comment and offer completely unsolicited and wildly unhelpful advice at any time. Learn the art of embarrassing them back. It's hilarious. If your belly skin itches, it means your skin is stretching a ton. Put some goddamn vitamin E, oil on, and don't scratch. That's how you get those deep, long stretch marks. Bath in that stuff.
Thank you for watching. Write comments, put likes. Do not forget to watching other videos.